How do you make decisions? And how do you know if you're making the right decision for you? With so many good things that we can do as Christian businesswomen and how many good choices we have, how do we make the best choice? Well, I have three things I want to talk about today, three strategies along with tools to help you use those strategies that will help you really be able to pray for clarity for your business so that you can make the right choices, the right decisions. Join me. Hey there, this is DeneenTB, your Christian business growth strategist and clarity coach. And today I'm talking about praying for clarity. But we're not just talking about praying. We're going to be talking about strategies for that and tools to go along with that. So I have three things that will help you to make good decisions. Okay? So the first one is, you guessed it, to pray, right? To pray. We actually have to bring our concerns to God. We have to bring them to Him in a way that we can actually remember. So the strategy is, yes, we have to pray. That will give us clarity. That will help us understand what to do next. But we need a tool to help us pray. The best tool that I have found is a journal. I have a journal where I have everything. My journal is not compartmentalized. It's not in sections. I don't have a different journal for gratitude, another one for praying for people or praying for missions or for my business. My life, I say, is seamless. Everything I do is reflected in who God has designed me to be. So I use my journal chronologically. So I have journal upon journal that's all dated. And if something I'm working through, a decision I have to make, what happens is I will start to pray through that in my journal. So on different days, I might have a different aspect. I might look at it differently. God might give me a different impression. So when I'm really trying to make a hard decision, what I do is I start to tab out in the same color every time I'm working through that particular decision, that particular problem, that particular challenge. And so what I'll do is I'll tab it out in the same color so that I can actually go back and review what is God revealing to me. Now, you may say, well, I'm not a journaler, Deneen. I don't know how to journal. I don't want to write all that stuff. I don't write either. I don't write paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. What I do is I bullet journal. I pray in color. I use my colored pencils. I allow God time to really speak to me through my journal. So it's not just one way. There are many different ways to journal, and we cannot say, well, I'm just not a good prayer. Did you hear that? I'm not a good prayer. When you use a journal and you allow God to talk to you because you've slowed down your brain using pencil, pen, colors, whatever it is, you actually get the impressions that He wants for you. So that is the first strategy, the first technique, the first tool when you have to make a decision is to first just get your journal out and start to pray in a more concrete way, not just prayers that you will get up and forget about, but prayers that you can go back and look at and see the progress of what God is leading you to, the direction that He is taking you. The second thing I want to help you with when we talk about getting clarity on making the right decision for your business or any right decision of where God wants to take you is to actually do something that you've probably done in the past, and it's called the pros and cons list. Now, that's what people have called it. But I'm not one for making lists. You know, I study personality profiling, and some of us really get geeked out on lists, and others of us are a little bit more creative, and we need to do it in a different way. And what I've found, though, is when we limit ourselves to just making a list, we can miss some things because we're compartmentalizing again, and our brain really isn't meant to do that a lot of the time. It's meant to just pop up things. So what I love, and the tool I use when making the pros and cons, is I use sticky notes. Now, I love sticky notes. If you were to look down from where my camera is, you would see all of my sticky notes all over the place. I love sticky notes. What I love about it for the pros and cons list is the fact that you can write one pro or one con on each sticky note. And then when you have them all done, you can put them up on your mirror or your wall or your whiteboard or whatever you have available. And when you put them all up on those, you can start to see everything that was in your brain. Because if we limit ourselves to only thinking about all the pros and making that list, and then thinking about all the cons and making that list, it's not allowing our brain to really ping off of each other. But if we just say, okay, what is a pro? And you write it down, stick it on your wall. And maybe another pro comes up, then another pro. But I'll bet you a con got stuck in your brain. And instead of wiping it away and maybe forgetting about it, you write that down on a different piece of paper, a different sticky note, and you stick it up. And you can actually have your two categories up on the wall. And so you say, oh, this is a pro or a con, and you can start to categorize them right away. But you're not limiting yourself to only thinking about one and not allowing the other one to rise up. I'll tell you, our brains, we think of negative things first. That's just how we all are wired as humans. And so you're trying to make the pros list, but the cons keep popping in there. So don't limit yourself to thinking, I can't think about that right now, but allow yourself to think about whatever rises up and do it that way. What I love about this too is that now it's out in front of you. You see it all and you can manipulate it. You can say, oh, well, that's a really important pro, and it's not as important as this con. And you can actually give yourself levels, and you can see how many things are really important to you. And you could even say, why did I even think about this? And you can throw it away. So I want you to think about everything. That's the whole point of it, is to think about everything and not limit yourself. This is a great tool when you're making a decision, is to do this method of the pros and cons list. And include God in it. Pray through what is going to be good about what happens. What is the best thing that's going to happen? And what is the worst thing that could happen? And really allow yourself to go there, because whatever it is, you can look at it afterwards and say, is this real? Is this true? Is this something that I should really concentrate or focus on? And God can reveal to you too that these pros are so much stronger than these cons. Or vice versa. Maybe it's something that you need to say no to. The third thing we're going to talk about are your values. Now, this is super important, and I've already done a video about how to use what we call the values filter in order to make good decisions. So now I'm giving you two more, but I'm going to put it up in the cards for you to look at that video as well. So what we talk about the values filter is first that you need to know your values. You need to know what is important to you. What is important to you? And when we know those things, then we can use it as a filter. Now, we always start with our top 5 when we talk about calling clarity in my program. And it's one of the very first exercises that we do, because it's so important to know if you're working in your values. Because when you work in your values, you feel satisfaction, you feel significance, you feel that you're doing the right thing, you know that God is leading you. And if you're not working in your values, that's when you start to feel kind of like a dread. Like, why am I doing this? Why did I say yes to this? Why am I going to this activity? And if you really start to feel dread about something, it's probably because it's not aligning with your values. Now, there are things you have to do in your life that you're not always going to like to do. But if it's something that you've committed to, and maybe you committed to it a little too quickly, you're going to have that overall sense of, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like I should be doing this. I can't do this anymore. Those type of feelings, then maybe you're not working in your values. So we choose the top 5 when we're in calling clarity. I love the fact that we choose the top 5, because then I can show you that it's a values filter, and you can pull any decision through this values filter. And if it doesn't align with at least one of them, now it doesn't have to be all 5, but if it doesn't align with at least one of them, what's going to happen is that it's going to get stuck. That question, that decision is going to get stuck, and you're going to be like, should I say yes to this? When we can say yes, it means that we've filtered it through what is important in our lives, what God is calling us to do in our lives, what is important and what God wants us to do is such a big deal, because when we focus on that, then we get to have the impact that we really want to have in the world, the one He wants us to have. And it's the way you were designed to show up in the world. I really hope these 3 tools can be a help to you when it comes to praying for clarity, when it comes to making the right decisions for your business, for anything in your life. Of course, we go to God with prayer, and we need a journal. Of course, we should do a pro and cons list, but that list needs to be something that we can really manipulate by using sticky notes, so we can really go through it with God. And then, of course, we need to understand our values. We need to understand what God has given us to do, the calling that He has for us, and the things that are important for us in our life, and use it as a filter in order to do what He's calling us to do in our businesses. You know, I have an acronym. I love acronyms, and I have an acronym for prayer. And I just want to close with this by saying prayer is purposeful. Using tools makes it more purposeful. Prayer is actually very real. I love using my journal because it makes it more concrete. Prayer is actually an adjustment. It's an adjustment of our attitudes. It's an adjustment of how God is transforming each one of us. Prayer is also yielding. When we see all these things in front of us, we can actually make those decisions to yield to what God is calling us to do, whether we're looking at some sticky notes or we're looking at our values filter and using it to make those decisions. It's also expectation. Prayer is that expectation that an answer will come, that the right decision will be made, that you will move forward. And that's what's so exciting about it. And then prayer is also routine. This is not something that you can do just every once in a while when you're not sure how to make the right decision or what a good decision is or the best decision is. Prayer is routine so that you can always know that God is there just waiting, ready, willing, and available to help you make the right decision. And we need to go to Him first. This is DeneenTB. Thanks for being with me today. Make sure that you like this video, comment about what you've learned and how you're going to use these tools. And of course, we'd love for you to subscribe, ring the bell, and all of those different things that make that algorithm really work. Thanks for being with me today. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you learned something. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, be filled to overflowing.